It's safe to say that during the 1960s, two of Britain's biggest institutions were the Super Mario Nation television series of Gerry Anderson, such as Thunderbirds, Stingray, and Captain Scarlet, and music legends The Who. Both Super Mario Nation and the Substitute Sensations have remained cultural icons for their groundbreaking work in their respective fields during the 1960s. But what if I told you that these two innovators are linked in a very special and unique way, thanks to a key figure in the world of Thunderbirds, who it could be argued was inadvertently responsible for The Who's rise to stardom due to an intriguing series of connections and events. This is the fascinating link between The Who and Thunderbirds. Our story begins with composer Barry Gray, the man responsible for creating pieces such as the instantly recognisable Thunderbirds March, the eerie, otherworldly sounds of the Mysterons in Captain Scarlet, and the beautiful aquatic soundscapes of Stingray. Before meeting future collaborator Gerry Anderson, Barry, who was born in 1908, was called up to serve his country during the Second World War. During this time, Barry ended up becoming resident conductor for the camp dance band at the RAF station in Padgate, Warrington. Amongst his responsibilities for this role included performing with the band in public in order to raise money for the RAF and the camp. It was during this time that Barry met and befriended saxophonist Cliff Townsend. The two performed together on numerous occasions before Barry was posted abroad in 1943. After the war, Gray resumed his musical career before meeting Gerry Anderson in 1956, the man with whom he would collaborate all the way up with until 1975. In mid-1963, during the production of Stingray, Barry Gray was contacted by his old friend Cliff Townsend, whose son had started writing songs and performing in local bands. Cliff's son, Pete Townsend, was at the time in a little-known band called the Detours, who would, in 1964, change their name to The Who, before becoming one of the biggest and most influential bands of all time. The lineup of the Detours at the time consisted of Roger Daltrey on vocals, Pete Townsend on guitar, John Entwistle on bass, and Doug Sandham on drums, who unbeknownst to him was to be replaced by Keith Moon several months later. The Detours had made a name for themselves as a hot and up-and-coming band already with countless gigs in and around London under their belts at the time, playing a wide selection of popular covers as well as some early Pete Townsend originals. Upon Cliff's contact, Barry kindly agreed to record a demo of young Pete's band in his then state-of-the-art home recording studio. This studio was located in a house at 242 Dollis Hill Lane in London, with Gray living there with his mother since around 1955. Barry had converted two of the downstairs rooms of the four-bedroomed house into his own studio. One of the rooms was designated as the live room where the musicians would sit, and the other as the control room for the studio, with every single wall of the house being lined with egg boxes to act as DIY soundproofing. With Gray acting as engineer, the Detours arrived at the studio to start their first ever recording session. Equipment in Gray's home at the time, however, was rather limited, as John Entwistle remembers that the session was recorded onto a simple one-track mono tape machine with a spring reverb and Baby Binson echo rec. Together, the four band members and Barry cut 3 songs, which were a cover of Chuck Berry's Come On and the Pete Townsend originals Please Don't Send Me Home, and the track It Was You, which most importantly was the first song Pete Townsend had ever written. Now sadly, the fruits of the band and Gray's labour has never been publicly heard or released, but the few who heard it described it as a solid effort for a first recording that sadly failed to capture the power of the band's live sound. The tape, however, eventually found itself in the hands of one Dick James, a publisher for the Beatles who subsequently signed a publishing deal with Townsend to the company Northern Songs. The song It Was You was then recorded by a band called The Naturals, with Barry Gray also receiving a co-writing credit for the song, meaning he must have had some input into the song during his session with the Detours. Although the version released by The Naturals saw little to no chart success, the song's release and publication was life-changing for Pete Townsend, giving him a massive confidence boost. It also made Pete realise for the first time that he had something to say, and that he had a right to speak up and push forward for the musical direction of what was to become The Who. Fast forward to just over a year later, and after that first early demo session, rock history was being made. As with Keith Moon in the band, The Who, as they were now known, were about to issue their first ever Townsend-penned single. The single, titled I Can't Explain, was released in January 1965, and it was to be the first in a long list of timeless classics created by The Who. It could be argued that perhaps without the connection of his father and the kindness of the man behind the Thunderbirds march, things may have turned out very differently in the lives of Keith Moon, John Entwistle, Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend. Without the help of Thunderbird's FAB composer, the world may have never been given the likes of Tommy, Who's Next or Quadrophenia, and been deprived of 60 years worth of guitar-smashing musical excellence. Thanks for watching this video about one of my favourite little random facts about two of my personal favourite subjects. Barry Gray and Pete Townsend are both heroes of mine, so telling the story of their connection was great fun. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you all again very soon.